All right, so one of our third grade standards that we've really been taking a look at this week is inherited traits. Inherited versus learned behavior, really. And we've been talking about that with, like, for instance, you inherited eye color from a parent, or your hair color, or maybe how tall or short you are, or the shape of your ears. There's any number of variety of things that you probably can see similarities between your siblings or your parents, or you know they were passed down to you. Parents do that. They pass on traits, a single characteristic about a living thing. They pass that down to their offspring. And offspring is another word for children with humans, but of course offspring in trees are seeds and then turn into seedlings in the full plant. Now, we've been taking a look at this fish tank all year long, and as we keep adding different types of organisms to our fish tank, one of the things we started with is snails. And snails are a good example of inherited traits and variations within different species of animals. We started with these golden orb mystery snails, and you can still see them in the tank back here. Although we have one decomposing right here, we still have 4 of them left in the tank. Every offspring that they have looks very similar to them. There might be some slight variations or differences between them, but they look very similar. We did add some other snails to this though, and the snails that we added were from a local pond. Now, we looked them up to make sure they weren't going to be harmful, but if you look in the tank closely, you'll notice that they're gray or black or brown in color, and they look very, very different from the golden mystery snails that we have in there. Now, they inherited their traits from their parents. And so as we start seeing more different types of snails, and we actually have bladder snails in there too, you will start noticing different characteristics for these snails. Take a look at the difference between these snails. There's a difference in the way they come out of their shell. There's a difference in the way they move. And most obvious, there's a difference in their color and in the shape of their shell. So once you get to know the different types of snails, you can easily see how they would inherit those from their parents, and you can identify as these snails start having offspring, or children in our words, as they start having offspring into the tank, you will be able to identify who their parents were based on how they look. Now, along with the trapdoor snails and the ram's horn snails, we have found some bladder snails, and I think those have actually come in on some of the plants that we added to that. So that was totally unintentional. The coolest thing is that some of these bladder snails have started reproducing. So if you look at the top of our water in our fish tank, if you watch them closely as they float around on the current, you'll notice there's little tiny specks. These little tiny specks are snails. So our tank is successfully reproducing snails, and I think they're bladder snails. Hopefully this clears up what an inherited trait is, and you can apply that as you look at animals, your own pets, and your own family members at home, because science is awesome.